Democrats are taking a page from the Republicans' playbook and assembling Project 2029, apparent reference to the GOP's Project 2025. Now, as per the New York Times, the Dems are putting together a blueprint of their own to bounce back from their 2024 loss.
Former Democratic strategist Andre Cherney is the brain trust behind the party's revival, which has dubbed, quote, the Avengers of public policy. But some are skeptical that Project 2029 will be the answer Democrats desperately need.
Joining us now is Jim Kessler, Executive Vice Chair of Policy at Third Way and an advisory board member of Project 2029. Welcome to Rising.
Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. Let's get right into it. What are the kinds of policy proposals that you think Democrats should be embracing? We're seeing a lot of argument between maybe a more left progressive economic populism and a kind of, for instance, the abundance agenda, or just moderating in some way. What do you think is the path forward?
Okay, so I'll speak to you as a founder of Third Way, which is a centrist Democratic think tank. Our belief, and my belief, is those policies should be mainstream, centrist, democratic ideas, help people have the opportunity to earn a good life where they live, imbue American policy with patriotism and opportunity, and to, erase cancel culture. That doesn't mean that what the Project 2029 agenda is going to be will embody all of those things, because that advisory board that you reference, and I'm on it, really runs the panoply of the ideological spectrum within the Democratic Party. So I think you're going to see things from the Project 2029 effort that sort of runs the gamut.
But why the name Project 2029, knowing, and Robbie likes to describe it as what everyone made the boogeyman, which was Project 2025. Why?
Now it's my turn. Ooh,
yeah,
2029.
Why use that name when it's supposed to be a good thing, right?
We're back to names again, right? I didn't like that Dunkin' Donuts was changed to Dunkin'. So just going back to your previous segment. So I didn't come up with the name. So I just want to be honest.
Yeah.
I like the name because it's controversial and it gets noticed. And I think if the name was something else, you wouldn't have me on. So I know that there's people who don't like it. But, I just think if it gets some attention and it's not overly offensive, don't want to offend anybody, it's a good name.
The policies that your organization recommends are, in my view, as not someone who has interest in the future of the Democratic Party, but I'm sure you embrace policies that I would prefer the Democratic Party to have because they are more centrist. But I have to point out, is centrism really going to be the correct electoral strategy for Democratic Party at a time where, obviously Zohran Mamdani and other people associated more with the left seem to be getting a lot of attention? I would say, at the very least, centrism has not attracted as kind of stellar a candidate in terms of just personal appeal and charisma. Do you agree with that? And what are your views?
So I think for a centrist to be effective, that centrist will have to capture people's imagination, and I think, the perfect example of that was Bill Clinton in 1992. He was a very exciting candidate and seemed fresh. And when 2028 comes around, if we do have a centrist Democratic nominee, that nominee will have to feel dynamic. I do want to say about the Mamdani thing, et cetera, this feels a lot to me like 2018. And in 2018, the story at this point, basically, was AOC winning a primary against Joe Crowley and that the left was taking over the Democratic Party. But in November, when Democrats had a tremendous midterm election, it was the centrists. It was Abigail Spanberger, Alyssa Slotkin, Chrissy Houlihan, Mikey Sherrill, Ruben Gallego. It was those folks that were winning Republican seats. So when the general election came around, it was the centrists. And I think, again, this time you look at the governor's race in Jersey and Virginia, Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, those are centrist stars. And Alyssa Slotkin is becoming a centrist star in the Senate. and Ruben Gallegos becoming a centrist star in the Senate as well. So I think, Mamdani winning in New York City, you're right in that media market, and he's designed to get a lot of attention, but I think there's a deeper story there.
So, Jim, what are the non-negotiables for a centrist Democrat? You're amongst the advisory committee, and then what are some non-negotiables for your peers? Are there things that are like, we must move forward? Are there consensus at all already? And what are some things that you think do belong in this plan?
So what is going to happen with this Project 2029, like, it is not going to be the plan that resembles what the Heritage Foundation put out for 2025, which is truly a blueprint. And like, I can't speak for the entire advisory board, but I can tell you what I see this as. I see this as a showcase, like a showroom for big, new, interesting ideas, some from the traditional left, some from the Democratic center, that presidential candidates can take out and take for a test drive and see that if it works. And that's really sort of the way I'm looking at it, as opposed to, this is what you should do if you become the head of the Department of Agriculture. Here are the 19 things that you should do. So that's the way I'm thinking of it. When you talk about non-negotiables, and again, I'm speaking for myself as a Democrat, I think the first non-negotiable is we have to be capitalists, not socialists, okay? And we also have to be for government reform. We have to be that you get $1 worth of government for $1 worth of taxes. And that encompasses the abundance agenda that you referenced earlier. Like, we have to make things work and be able to have progress and to build things. So, and I also think like getting rid of the cancel culture while also being like an accepting, tolerant people and party is a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah, again, I agree with the policies you just put forth. I like them. They're appealing to me. If anything was going to win me to the Democratic Party, it's the agenda you just outlined. Whether it's
Come
going
on
to be,
over.
Come on, that's what I
whether
said.
it's going to be successful might be another thing, because I've done this show in the past with co-hosts. This isn't quite you, Lindsay, but people who are more on the left who hate the agenda you're setting forth and say, no, the energy is with left-wing populism, socialism by another name, if not socialism itself. And I guess our final question to you would be, the Democratic Party, I think, has so clearly done poorly with, for instance, young men in the last election. There's this whole idea of trying to manufacture a Joe Rogan type person. Do you have any thoughts on that problem being one that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, I think it does need to be addressed. I do think the cultural issues in which people feel they have to walk on eggshells, I think has affected a lot of people, and in particular young people. And also, I just believe that the Democratic Party has forgotten how to listen. And we think polling is listening, and focus groups is listening, and looking at social media is listening. And we think talking to the groups is listening, and talking to the groups isn't listening. It's a version of appeasement to those groups. And I think we have to get back to basics and really hear what people are saying. I think we have to shut up a little bit and listen.
Jim Kessler, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on Rising. We'll talk a lot more about this. A federal judge gives ex-officer nearly 3 years in Breonna Taylor's raid, rebuffs DOJ call for no prison time at all. We'll talk about that next in My Lens. Stay with us.